We're live. All right. We're live. Sorry for the delay. Had some technical difficulties there with the computer, but we're all good now. We'll go ahead and share our screen so everybody can see. It appears everything's set up. Everything's in order. All right. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the digital photo storage presented to you by the Orland Park Public Library. My name, I guess I don't need this anymore. I'm in a room by myself. I can make myself presentable. I'll go ahead and I'm Matthew Montalvo. I'm an IT assistant for the Orland Park Public Library. We're going to go over different ways you can store your photos on a computer or even, flash drives, any form, any way you can keep your precious memories perfectly safe, and you can have them either physically or other methods that you can do so you can store your photos. So we'll just dive right into it since I've already killed time. Overall, there's really only two different types of devices that you can put your photos into. The two separate, there's like physical devices and then there's cloud devices. I'm just going to focus on the physical devices for now, because cloud, they're not physically there. They don't actually exist. They're hosted somewhere by a company. They cost money, but for right now, I just want to focus on the physical devices. There's two different types of physical devices. We have optical storage and solid state storage. And then you could say that there's two different types of cloud storage as well. There's free and paid. Typically, most services that offer cloud storage they start out as free, and they also offer a paid service. But most that people will be familiar with are either going to fall into the optical or solid state storage. So if you have a photo, if you have a photo on a computer, it's probably in a format like a dot. I don't know. Announcement in the library. If you have a photo that's on a computer or even on your phone or even on a camera, it's probably saved as a file like a JPEG, PNG, any sort of photo file. It's saved, it takes up space, it's put on a physical device. On your camera has a little bit of storage built into it. You could move it from your camera onto your computer, and then it's on your computer's hard drive. We're going over devices that you can move it from your computer onto flash drives, but a common optical storage is a disk. Most optical storage are disks. We're going over CDs and DVDs. Hard drives themselves are disks, but most people back in the day, not very common right now, would burn images to a CD or a DVD. The only problem with that is modern laptops and desktop computers, they don't have a CD or DVD drive. The computer, almost all the computers in the library don't have CD drives. Any laptop you go out and buy today, they don't have CD drives. You can store just about any file on a CD drive, but this is becoming less and less common. it's not really an effective method to store stuff onto. And as more and more time goes by, it's going to be less effective because disks can only store so much data on them. And as time goes by, photos themselves are going to require more and more storage capacity. One single photo 10 years from now might fill up 10% of a single disk. So today you can probably store, I mean, this PowerPoint saying 700 photos on a 700 megabyte disk. That's assuming that one photo's 1 megabyte. However, a year from now, people might have 8K fancy cameras that make photos 10 megabytes. 10 years from now, they might be 100 megabytes. The size capacity of the disk isn't going to increase because that's not something that's really supported to this day. They're not going to make fancier disks that hold more storage. So it's not something that I want to focus too much on, but it does exist. The reason it's important is because most people probably do have disks at home. It was very common back in the day. They're fairly cheap. I would consider them cheap. You can get packs of them at Walmart for like, I mean, you can find, it's saying $20 for 25 disks. I've seen some pretty phenomenal deals. I can go to Fry's Electronics. They don't have inventory right now, but there's a point in time where you can go to Fry's Electronics and you can get like 150 disks, and it's only like, I don't know, it was like $70 or something. And so, I mean, that's pretty good. You're getting a lot of disks. So I think you're getting a lot of bang for your buck. But then it's like, you got all these disks. You would have to label on all the disks, you know. Maybe that works for you. You have a bunch of pictures from the Grand Canyon. You could write on the disks like, this has all the pictures on the Grand Canyon, and then you'd have to store that somewhere. You'd have to protect it. It's a disc, you know, you don't want it to get scratched up. You'd have to put it in a sleeve, then you'd have to get another disc. It also takes a long time to burn the actual images onto the disc. And then the other issue, again, that I'm going to reiterate again, you need a computer with a disk drive. Computers just don't have disk drives this day and age. It's just not a thing that is that common anymore. So you would need to find that they sell at the store along with discs, probably in the same aisle. You can actually buy removable disk drives. That's what we have here at the library. If you want to come into the library and you actually want to burn images to a disk, you have a CD or a DVD. There's a difference between the two that we'll go over. If you want to burn images to a CD or DVD, or even if you want to burn music to a CD or DVD or a movie, we accommodate that. Even though our computers themselves, our public computers, even though they don't have disk drives, you can buy removable disk drives that just plug right into the computer. And if you want one at home, you have a bunch of disks laying around and you want to find out how to move your photos onto a disk, but you don't have a disk drive, you can pick one up. They're usually somewhere between $12 and $20. They're pretty cheap unless you get a fancy Blu-ray one. You plug right into the computer, you take the disk, you put it right in there, and it works like normal. So there's ways to accommodate the fact that, you know, they're becoming less and less common. They're just not offered in computers. Again, part of the reason they're not offered in computers is I think most people this day and age have realized that it's not really an effective way to store stuff. People just don't use disks. They can get damaged, they can get lost. So it's not something I'm going to go into. DVDs, they're like CDs, but better. It's saying one of the pros of optical storage is that you have physical possession of the images. While that's true, you can have physical possession of an image with flash storage as well. If we're going to go over that immediately afterward. The only way that you wouldn't have physical possession of your images is if it was in the cloud, which is also an option. But again, that could be costly, and most people, I feel like, want to actually be able to hold their images in some way. They want to be able to have them there. Maybe if they're really precious to you, you put them in a safe, or you have a spot for them, you put them in a drawer. I think that's totally understandable. So the Flash storage is another type of physical storage that is pretty much everywhere. It's the predominant storage that you're going to see absolutely everywhere. This is your flash drives and your SD cards. So most cameras have SD cards in them. When you take a picture, it goes to the SD card. Phones themselves have flash memory in them. If you transfer a photo from your phone to a computer, chances are it's going from flash media to flash media. You might be moving it from the flash storage on your phone to the flash storage on your computer. And then you would be moving it from your computer probably to a flash drive, which is the little removable hard disk. I don't have one on me, but I do have a, I did have one, it fell off. But the little removable thumb drives that you put it into your computer. That's flash storage. People call them flash drives. They're also known as like thumb drives, similar names. It's all the same name. There's a picture on the screen, one by SanDisk, has a little red button on it. So there's that, there's the SD card, and there's the micro SD card. The micro SD card is just a really tiny SD card that goes into smaller things like phones and certain cameras. These are the big modern ones that everyone's going to be using. They're much faster, they're much larger, and for the most part, they're much cheaper. I was saying you can get a bunch of CDs and DVDs really, really cheap. You can get them for like, maybe 50 cents per, physical disc, and they hold a decent amount of photos. But again, then you run into the issue of like, oh, I don't have a CD drive on my computer. Well, everyone's computer is going to have a space to put a flash drive. Just about 99.999% of computers will have the ability to put in a flash drive because that uses USB, which literally is universal serial bus. It's the universal standard for connecting computer stuff together. It's on everything. So, and you could buy those everywhere. As a matter of fact, they're so common, I've seen them given out for free places. If you go to a convention or an expo of some kind, they will give out free, 1 or 2 gigabyte flash drives, like pens. Usually you go to I don't know if anyone's ever been to a expo or a convention of any kind, but usually they have pens with company names on them. Well, they've gotten pretty crafty now. Now they have flash drives with company names on them. So you go to, Smith Construction Company, and you'll get they'll be there doing a presentation showing you stuff, and they'll give you a free flash drive that says Smith Construction Company on it. And it might only be like 1 gigabyte, but 1 or 2 gigabytes that's quite a bit if you're only using it to store photos. That'll store potentially thousands of photos. And unless you have tens of thousands of photos, that might be enough. And of course, I don't expect everyone to go out to a convention or an expo, but these 1 or 2 gigabyte flash drives are only like $3 or $4. You can go pretty much anywhere and find them. You can find 64, 16, 16 gigabyte ones are like less than $10. You can get 64 gigabyte ones on sale, less than $20. They have 128 gigabyte ones and 256 gigabyte ones. They just get quite ridiculous in size to the point where there's no way that you have, a 64 gigabyte flash drive can store potentially millions of photos if they're small enough. So I think to the average person, this is going to be the cheapest and most effective way to store your photos and put it on something physical so you can keep it on you, or put it in a drawer and keep it at home. And of course, it's still big enough where if you wanted to write on a flash drive, photos, you're backing up your photos, you have a hard copy of your photos, you have it written down photos, and it's quite fast too. What I mean by that is if you have all these photos on your computer, which I would assume most people do, you have a bunch of stuff saved, you've had a family computer for, in the same place for 10 years, and it's got all your photos on it, and you want to be able to move them. I feel like that's what most people are going to do. If you have a bunch of disks, you're going to have to put the disk in the disk drive. You're going to have to burn them all. That's going to take a very long time. That could take hours. That the whole day is just going to be spent moving photos from your computer to all these disks. I'm sure you don't want to do that. So with the flash drive, all you got to do is plug it into the computer and select all your photos. You could even move the whole folders, and you just move it over to the flash drive. Then you can, it might take a little bit of time. It might take several minutes, maybe even an hour, depending on how many files. If you have thousands of photos, it might take up to an hour, but you don't have to be there for that. You don't have to remove the disk after it's burning. You just go and make food. You can go for a walk, and you can come back and it's all done. You just remove the flash drive, bam, that's it. And that's personally what I do. That's how I back up all of my photos. But it's not the only thing that I do to back up my photos, because there's also here you go, other types of physical storage. There's micro SD cards. That's going to be what everyone, if you have a normal camera, not a camera that's in a part of a phone, but an actual camera, that's going to be using an SD card or a micro SD card. It's the same general principle as the flash drive. The only difference is it doesn't connect to every computer. Only certain computers are going to have the capability of connecting an SD card. But similar to the disk drive, there are things you can go out to the store and you could buy a removable SD slot for your computer. So you plug it into your computer, and then bam, you have an SD slot that you're able to put the SD card in, and you're able to move between your computer and the SD card. You can move all of your photos to the SD card. That's something that you're able to do. The says readily used in today's devices. Most physical devices use either CD, DVD, SD, micro SD. I feel like the more common one's going to be either the flash or the one that I haven't covered yet, which is the external hard drive. The external hard drive is a type of physical storage that's similar to, you might think it's similar to a flash drive. That's actually a common misconception. What you see on screen, the picture that's on the PowerPoint, that is a external hard drive. These are very big. So I have been talking so far about in gigabytes. A disk, a single DVD or CD might be, 1 gigabyte. Flash drives range anywhere from 1 gigabyte to 100 gigabytes or even larger. But these external hard drives are thousands of gigabytes. They're measured in terabytes. So it says the price of a 5 terabyte external hard drive that's 5,000 gigabytes will cost around $110. So that might be the best bang for your buck. If you got, maybe you want to put whole families, you have your whole family's photos, you want to put them all on one disk. This might be what you're looking for. But this is more similar to optical storage than it is flash storage, because a hard drive is an actual spinning disk, like the DVD or the CD. It's a spinning disk in a container, and it's also extremely prone to being damaged or lost. All physical storage has the potential of being lost. I would imagine it's harder to lose the external hard drive than an SD card, and I'd imagine it's even harder to lose a micro SD card. These things are very tiny. They're smaller than the nail on my pinky. So, I mean, those are very hard to lose. But again, they're only usually found inside. The micro SD card's only ever going to be inside of a cellular phone. There's a spot inside phones where you can put a micro SD card, and there's a spot inside cameras where you can put a micro SD card. And so most people will only ever use a micro SD card if they're taking out the micro SD card from a phone, or taking it out of a camera and moving it to their computer. And then if you're going to actually store your photos, you're probably going to move it from your computer probably to a hard drive, like this external hard drive that's on screen. It says that so I've already kind of mentioned this. One drawback is that mechanical devices can fail without notice. The problem is technically all of the physical devices can break in some way. A flash drive, I mean, it could snap in half, it could rain, you could drop it in the tub, and it might be permanently damaged. That's probably unlikely, but the one that's going to be very likely is most people probably think it's enticing to get 5,000 gigabytes from an external hard drive. That's a lot. I don't think anybody, even as years go by, I think that's enough that you could probably live your whole life and not have to worry about having to figure out a way to store your photos, at least not for the next decade or two. I think that's, at least for 20 years, I don't see you having to go out and find a replacement to store all your photos. But the problem with an external hard drive, again, isn't just like, oh, it's a spinning disk. Well, the problem with it being a spinning disk is it's got a lot of moving parts. If you drop it while it's connected to a computer, it could potentially irreversibly destroy all of the data on that hard drive. That's all gone. And it's not like it's cheap either. It costs a pretty penny. It's $110 for a 5 terabyte one. And personally, it says the price is about $110 for a 5 terabyte one. I look around Amazon for deals like that. That's a pretty good deal. 5 terabyte, $110. Usually they're a little even pricier than that. I'll find 2 terabyte ones that could be, depending on the day, they might be up to $100 just for a 2 terabyte one. So they're pretty pricey. So it's not really something that I would carry around with me. They do make external solid state drives, which are just really big flash drives that look just the same as that, but they don't have any spinning components. They're the same size and they're not prone to breaking as much, and they're much faster. However, they're much, much more expensive. They're probably double, if not triple, the cost. So a 5 terabyte external solid state drive is going to cost hundreds of dollars, $300, $400, $500 easy. So I can understand that most people aren't going to want to buy that just to store their photos, which again, I'd go with the flash drive. The flash drive you can get for under $20. You can store tens of thousands of photos, no problem. So I feel like that would be the more common way that people would store photos long term. Micro SD cards, again, that's going to be something that people are moving their photos to from a camera or a phone. And then the micro SD and the SD card is going to be just moving between a phone or a camera to a computer. But then there's cloud storage, which is the even longer term alternative. There's no actual risk to having your photos get destroyed, like in any way. It's just not possible because it's not physically there. So if you have your photos put on your computer, you can move them to Google Photos. They have Amazon Photos. I see that there's a logo for that. There's all sorts of things saying Shutterfly, Flickr. There's a couple other ones. I use Microsoft OneDrive. If you pay for Microsoft Office, you actually get Microsoft OneDrive for free. Microsoft OneDrive is the cloud storage system that Microsoft offers. So these are, imagine them like the cloud. When people think of the cloud, they typically think of like something that's up there. And they're not totally wrong because it's the internet, so it's not something that you can physically see. But, they'll offer hundreds, if not thousands of gigabytes for the paid ones anyway. If not, at least a decent amount of space for free. The free ones usually offer somewhere between 5 and I'll say 30 gigabytes for free, where it doesn't cost you any money. And you could store any of your photos on the internet, basically. And now this isn't on the internet for everyone to see. This is on the internet just for you. And so you'll have to log in, you'll have to make an account, or you already have an account. If you already have an account with like Amazon or Google, you'll just sign in with that. If you have an Amazon account, you could download Amazon Photos. If you have a Google account or a Gmail, you could do Google Photos. If you have a Hotmail, you can sign in with your Hotmail for Microsoft OneDrive. Hotmail is a Microsoft account. Microsoft owns Hotmail. That's, you just sign in with your Hotmail into Microsoft OneDrive and they give you free storage space. There's a couple problems with that we'll get into, but most free cloud storage options offer a paid version, and the paid version doesn't just do, offer more space. The problem is some providers of free cloud storage, they might delete your data over time. They might only like leave your data there for like, so if you put a photo there, it might only be good in cloud storage for 60 days. It might automatically be removed. They might remove your account. It really depends on business to business. But cloud storage has been around for a while, and it's only getting bigger. I think the free cloud storage has offered really, really small capacities back in the day. But now there's free cloud storage options that are pretty good that offer, like, you just make an account and they'll give you like 100 gigabytes. They'll give you 100 gigabytes of space. You could put all your photos and even videos that you have saved on your computer. You could throw it on there on an account you just made, and then bam, you're done. You don't need to worry about, if your house burns down, oh no, what about those photos that were on that computer? And maybe you had them on external hard drives. Okay, well, those burned with the house too. Well, you don't have to worry because they're saved in cloud storage. So, when the insurance company pays for your house to be rebuilt and you buy a new computer, you just go on the internet and you go to Amazon Photos or Google Photos or Microsoft OneDrive. You sign in, all your photos are still there. It's as if imagine it like an invisible. Try to imagine it like an invisible flash drive that plugs into your computer when you log in, and it's massive, and it's got all your stuff right there. And again, it's pretty safe. A lot of people are scared of cloud storage because they think it's a security risk. Like, oh, can't people see? It's on the internet. People can see that kind of stuff, right? And it's like, no, you need to sign in with your account. It's like, oh, but that stuff can get hacked. And while that's true, depending on what cloud service provider you're using, they're susceptible to be anything on the internet susceptible to being stolen by hackers. Hackers don't go for photos and cloud storage. They go for passwords and bank information. That's where all the hackers are making money. So they're not going to go for cloud storage. And all the big ones like Google Photos and Amazon Photos and Microsoft OneDrive. This is Google, Amazon, and Microsoft we're talking about. These are, the largest corporations in the world. They're not going to, they're reputable. They all offer free storage solutions, all right, with what I would consider almost no drawbacks. They're not going to get hacked, and they're safe to use. Anybody that has photos that doesn't already have their photos on cloud storage, I would definitely recommend going to Google and looking up Google Photos, or you could just Google search. You can Google search Microsoft OneDrive or Google search Amazon Photos as well. It might be, it's called Amazon Photos. At least the picture says Amazon Photos. I believe it was called Amazon Drive at one point, though. I could have sworn. All these offer some form of free. I know Amazon offers free photo storage, and they'll give you a certain amount of gigabytes, and you could pay for even more if you reach your limit. But I feel like most people aren't going to have thousands of photos. Unless you're taking pictures with a fairly brand new top of the line smartphone or really expensive camera, your photos aren't going to be that large in file size. Most photos that people are going to have are going to be around 1 megabyte, which is, a thousandth of a gigabyte. And these companies are offering free 5 gigabyte storage solutions. So you could store thousands of photos completely for free on the internet. But I can understand if some people don't have access to the internet. So cloud storage isn't always a solution for everybody because you're not always connected to the internet. But one good thing about cloud storage is that it's easy to be connected to cloud storage. Apple offers iCloud. It's basically integrated into the iPhone, and an iPhone's basically one of the most used phones today on the market. So if you own an iPhone, if you take a picture with your phone, you immediately get an option if you want to. There is a easy way to just move your photo from your camera roll directly to iCloud. And similar to Amazon Photos or Google Photos or Microsoft OneDrive, iCloud is a paid service. You can pay money for it, but to everyone who has an iPhone, they will provide, I believe it's 5 or 6 gigabytes completely for free. And on newer iPhones, I'll be quite honest with you, that's actually not a lot because the iPhone has a fairly nice camera. So it takes pretty large file size images. They're very nice looking images, but you can't store that many, probably only several hundred. And if you don't take that many pictures, I'm sure you laugh at the number, like several hundred. That's more than enough. And if that's you, then that's great. If you have an iPhone and you don't take that many pictures, but the pictures that you do have on your phone are precious to you, I would definitely go and look up iCloud. iCloud is a fantastic option. It'll store your photos not only in a safe and secure place on the cloud, so they're safe forever, but also if you buy a new iPhone, you don't have to worry about moving your photos from one phone to another. They're in the cloud. You immediately just sign into your iCloud account, into your Apple account on the new phone. All your photos are right there. Similarly, if you want to move photos from computer to computer, this is in the cloud. It's not like you have to sign in on the computer you originally signed into when you moved these photos onto, Google Photos. Let's have a theoretical example. I have a computer at home. It's the family computer. It's got all the family photos on it. All right. Let's say it's got, I don't know, 2,000 photos on it, that I've had since, 2005. It's got all the kids on it, all of our, adventures, and all of the kids, school pictures are on it. All my work pictures are on it. All the vacation pictures are on it. You want to keep those, and you move them to Google Photos or, Amazon Photos. Let's say Google Photos. And so you move them to Google Photos. You sign in. You made a Google account. You move them to Google Photos, and bam, they're on Google Photos. I'm done. And so every single time you want to access them, you log into Google Photos on that computer. Well, you don't have to do that. If you want to show your friends the picture that you have stored on Google Photos, you can sign into Google Photos on your phone and they'll be there. Wherever you sign into Google Photos, as long as you're signing into the account that you signed into when you move them onto Google Photos, they'll be there. If you sign into a computer, 500 miles away and you log into Google Photos, bam, your photos are right there. They never left. They're always there. And so that's why I would say that cloud storage is like the go-to way to store stuff. But like, again, you need internet for that. If you're in the middle of nowhere, if you're in, I don't know, Grand Canyon National Park, there's no internet there, or at least most of the national park, there's no internet there. So if you're taking pictures of the Grand Canyon, which I believe most people would, they'll probably want to immediately send it to, iCloud or Google Photos. Well, you won't have the ability to do that. You don't have service. Some people might not have internet at the home. That's very common. There is a lot of people that don't have internet. So cloud storage isn't always an option, but if it is an option for you, if you have internet and you're capable of signing up for a cloud storage service, I would definitely recommend it. And then the other thing to remember is that you might be paying for cloud storage that you're not using. Again, Microsoft Office, Office 365, which has actually since been renamed to Microsoft 365. So it's a little confusing, you know, the monthly or yearly annual subscription package that offers Microsoft Word, Microsoft PowerPoint, Microsoft Access, and Excel. Those are bundled with free Microsoft OneDrive. That's actually included. If you are a student somewhere and you get Office for free from your university or college or high school, you should look into that. I think those people also get free cloud storage through Microsoft OneDrive. So if you're paying for Office 365 so you can use Word, you're getting free 1,000 gigabytes of Microsoft OneDrive that you're not using. Similarly, if you have Amazon Prime, you have free Amazon Photos. If you have an Amazon account, you have Amazon Photos. If you have a Google account or a Gmail, you can access Google Photos. You don't have to make an account. It's not complicated. You just have to go on Google and go to Google Photos. You either go on your phone or you're on your computer. It's just a service that you're not using that they offer. And so if you're already, and I feel like 90% of people are using these services. They have an Amazon account, they have a Google account, and they're just not using these services. I am a person that I would be like, oh, I have Amazon Prime. And then I actually, it was just a couple of weeks ago, I got an advertisement on Amazon actually. And it said, if I start using Google Photos, it said if I just put 10 photos on Google, or if I put 10 photos on Amazon Photos, that I'd get $10 off my next purchase of $50 or more. And I was like, oh, well, does it cost me anything? And it says, no, you're already an Amazon Prime member, so it doesn't cost you anything. You're already paying for the service. All you got to do is download the Amazon Photos app, upload 10 pictures, and after a week, we'll add a $10 credit to your account. And I did that. Amazon gave me a $10 credit, and now I store my photos on Amazon Photos. It's pretty good. So I would definitely look out for that. Of course, that's a specific scenario for me. I can't guarantee that you'll get free $10 credit on Amazon, but these are things that are offered by companies and, you know, services that people use every single day. So it's something that I would look into. Let's see what it says. Apple, iCloud, and Google Drive Photos are the most popular due to the capability of having the account on their devices and a certain amount of free storage. All right, so I went over that. But yeah, so other providers charge for their services at a range in prices and most offer a minimum amount of storage. Okay. So one thing that's kind of covered here that I do want to mention is if you have a lot of photos, one thing that isn't really that nice about cloud storage is, like any subscription service, they might offer an enticing price like, oh, here's a cloud storage option. You can store an unlimited number of photos. There's services that do that. Oh, infinite photo storage. You could have literally 5 million photos. We don't care. And it only costs $3.99 a month. Well, that might sound enticing at first, but then they could, you know, send you an email and be like, oh, well, we're increasing our price to $5.99 a month. And you're like, oh, okay, that's not that bad. Well, then like, oh, we're merging with a big company. Well, now it's going to cost $10.99 a month. And now you're like, oh, this is starting to get kind of expensive. I don't really like that. Well, if you put all of your photos on this one service and they're going to start constantly charging you more and more, remember, if you just cancel, all your photos are gone. So it's not like cloud storage is, you know, the perfect option either, because if you need all that space and you're paying for it, there might come a day where, you know, you don't want to pay for it anymore. Well, then what happens to all those photos? You get the option to move them from cloud storage back to your computer, but then you're back at square one. Now they're all back on your computer again. And most people want to either have them in cloud storage or they want to have them physically. That's why I do both. I have them on a flash drive and I have them in cloud storage. And I technically don't pay for it. I already pay for Microsoft Office with Office 365. So I get free 1,000 gigabytes from Microsoft on Microsoft OneDrive. So I'll every now and then, probably about once a month, I'll back up all my photos to Microsoft OneDrive. And Microsoft OneDrive is smart. All these services are smart. If you try to like throw a bunch of pictures into your OneDrive and you're trying to throw pictures that are already there, it won't let you. It'll say, oh, this is a duplicate, and it'll only add the new stuff. Some are integrated with phones and computers where it automatically sends a new photo to Microsoft OneDrive or iCloud or Google Photos. So if you have an Android phone or an iPhone or a Windows 10 PC, anytime you have a new photo, if it's set up, there's different ways to set it up depending on your device. The second you get a new photo, bam, it's already put on your Microsoft OneDrive or your Google Photos or your Amazon Photos. Just, it's already done. Just instantly goes. You don't even have to worry about it. But again, the one thing that I would worry about is the potential of, oh, I had Microsoft 365 and then I stopped paying for it. Well, I have probably about 200 gigabytes used in my 1000, and I think Microsoft only allows 10 to 20 for free. So if I canceled my Office 365 subscription, my 200 gigabytes of photos, they'd be gone. I wouldn't be able to access them. I wouldn't be able to add more to it. I'm basically forced to keep paying every month for Office 365, and I'm forced to if I want to keep my photos. And I don't want to feel like I'm being forced to pay for something. So I put them on a flash drive as well. That way, I don't feel like I'm being forced. If I want to, I could be like, I'll stop paying for Microsoft Office and I'll be able to use a flash drive. So here we go. Yeah, so I'm kind of using the PowerPoint for reference. I'm kind of going over. Okay, so yeah, here we go. This has OneDrive, and there's a couple other Dropbox, Google Drive. Google Drive and Google Photos are more or less the same. Google Photos is more oriented towards photos, which is the example I've used in this class. I'm sure most people have more been familiar with Google Drive. I feel like a lot of people are familiar with Google Drive. OneDrive, Amazon Drive. Yeah, I knew it was called Amazon Drive. You could store more than just photos on these. OneDrive isn't just for photos. You could store videos. The only reason I'm focusing on photos is photos take up a relatively small amount of space. If you wanted to start putting a bunch of videos on OneDrive or Amazon Drive or Google Drive, you could do that too. Just know it's going to take up significantly more space. Now, a lot of people would probably say that the best storage options require some research. My personal opinion, I'd stay away from optical media. So your CDs and DVDs, they're not common. I see it kind of redundant to buy a CD and then have to go out and buy a CD drive for computers that might not have a CD drive. And if you have CDs lying around and your computer has a CD drive, that might be good for you today. But in the future, you're probably going to buy a new computer, and a new computer isn't going to have a CD drive, probably. Well, only 1% of computers, new computers that are made today, have a CD drive. They're becoming basically extinct completely. They're just straight up not made. Now, again, it's not like it's, I feel like most people that have photos on CDs or DVDs, they've had them on there forever. It's not really a thing that people want to do now. It's like I put my, photos on a CD or DVD from, 5 years ago, 10 years ago even. And at least you get the ability with a CD to, put it back in a computer and put it on the computer and then move it to something else. I would move it to a flash drive. I believe a flash drive's easy to keep track of. It's really fast and they're really, really cheap. And I don't think most people are going to need a external hard drive or solid state drive to be able to store all their photos. Unless you have thousands, you got thousands of photos, you're going to need like an external drive of some sort. And people always say like, oh, well, do I use an external hard drive or do I use cloud storage? Why not both? And I can guarantee you that the cloud storage options might be free. An external hard drive or an external solid state drive, that's going to be very expensive. But the one thing to keep in mind is, remember, I'm paying monthly, every month for 1,000 gigabytes. It's not like I'm gaining 1,000 gigabytes every month. I'm paying every month just to be able to have 1,000 gigabytes. And so while the $100, $200, $300 price tag might scare you to buy an external hard drive or solid state drive, the one thing to remember is, okay, but you're not paying every month and you have 1,000 gigabytes right there. So a 1,000 gigabyte or a 1 terabyte external hard drive, it might only cost you, I don't know, $60. Well, what are you getting for your $60? You're not tied to a subscription service. You can access them whenever you want. You have a physical version of them that you can like hold. You know, it's not like it could be, you know, oh, I forgot my login information, or, you know, my account got hacked and I lost all my stuff. You don't have to worry about that. It's a physical hard drive. But again, the problem that the reason I would go with a solid state drive over a hard drive is because hard drives break. They will break. It has nothing to do with how you take care of them. They're almost guaranteed to fail if you drop it. And you might say, okay, well, I'll take really good care of my hard drive. Well, that's not what it comes down to. At the end of the day, it actually comes down to the fact that hard drives, anything with a spinning disk, they have lifespans, including the CDs and DVDs, but more so the mechanical hard drives. So an external hard drive, if you go out and you go to Best Buy, Walmart, Walgreens, Target, wherever, Fry's Electronics, Micro Center, even some gas stations, and they Amazon, eBay, you look for an external hard drive. Keep in mind that if it's really expensive, it's probably not an external hard drive. It's probably an external solid state drive or SSD. The hard drives are significantly less expensive, but they are guaranteed at some point in time to break. The reason for this is they have a lot of moving parts. They're very delicate, and it's a spinning disk. It's like they're laser etching your data onto a spinning disk. And if, that gets, wobbled or moved the wrong way, those parts might actually permanently damage that disk, and that becomes unreadable. If that happens, it's not like all your photos are lost forever. You can pay to have that recovered. You can have a professional company restore all that data off your hard drive. You don't want to be put in a position, I've seen it a lot of times, where they actually store all their photos, even all their important documents, like tax information or, billing information, PDFs of like the deed to their house and their, birth certificates, all their important stuff. And they have it on a hard drive, an external hard drive, a big one, like a 2 or 3 terabyte external hard drive. Well, it's great, but those things have a lifespan. And if they break, that could be your life that's going away there. And that might have sensitive information that you don't want to put on, on one of these cloud drives. You don't want to put it on OneDrive, or you don't want to put it on Google Drive. That's why I would invest. That's why people would pay the $300, $400 for an external solid state. And that's only if you want a ridiculously large one. It's only about like $200 for a decently sized external solid state drive. But, you're paying twice or sometimes even triple as much money for the solid state over the hard drive, but it's pretty bad to go through having to watch your stuff get, again, it's 100% guaranteed that your stuff's going to get destroyed with a external hard drive. Hard drives have a lifespan. They're guaranteed to die at some point in time. They are not immortal. They have a lot of moving parts, and they can be recovered. You'd have to go to a company that specializes in hard drive repair. I've actually repaired a hard drive. I've actually gone to a corporation. I had the ability to, on behalf of my education, to become a computer network security specialist. I actually was brought to a clean room, that's what they call it, to restore the data on a hard drive that had become damaged. Somebody had photos and a bunch of other stuff like tax information and all their stuff, a bunch of stuff with their wife and their kids. It was all on an external hard drive, and they really needed that back. So they paid a company to restore their data. And I was actually the one that was able to restore their data for them. I got to do it. They let me do it. It was actually really cool. And they put you into a room, totally ventilated. You're basically wearing a hazmat suit and like a gas mask. You're given like special tools because it's like a really delicate drive. You're given like a gold-plated screwdriver, and the other is like a tungsten-plated screwdriver. And you got to like tear this thing apart. They have like a special vacuum. You got to have like a special laser, and you got to like fix this disk. And you actually have to physically remove the data. You got to replace parts from the hard drive with an exactly identical hard drive. It takes hours. It's extremely stressful. And when it's all done, it's like, oh, we were able to recover everything. And that sounds great, but you bet that's going to cost a lot of money. And it did. I think they were charged something like $330 or something to restore it all because it took 2 days. So it was already mostly restored. That's why they let me mess with it. I only needed to replace something, but they went through the process of everything they already did when I went in there. It's a really delicate, interesting process. And if you have an external hard drive or even just a normal hard drive in your computer that breaks, it will eventually die. You might wake up one day and it might say like, oh, there's no hard drive connected. You know, your external hard drive, you plug it in, it just says we're unable to read this hard drive. Those hard drives have a lifespan. They typically don't last that long. I was reading an article. I don't have it. I did try to link it before I started this. It said something like every year the chance of the hard drive dying goes up 13%. So the first year that you buy a hard drive, there's a 13% chance that it will just die within the first 365 days. Second year, it doubles. So, oh, well, now there's you had a 13% chance last year of it dying within the first 365 days. Well, now you're on year 2. Now there's a 26% chance that it'll die. And it's only going to stack up. Eventually, it's going to die. It will die eventually. Some people are very lucky. They'll never have their hard drive die. And I guess that depends on how often they use it and how they take care of it. You know, you might only use it once in a blue moon to back up your photos. And if that's what you're doing, then I think a mechanical hard drive is perfectly fine. You have a safe space to put it. You only use it when you're going to back up your photos. I think that's perfectly reasonable. And I would buy an external hard drive for that. And they're really cheap. It costs you $60. But again, I wouldn't back away from the external solid state drives because you don't get that risk of everything, you know, magically dying because it's a mechanical hard drive. It's a solid state drive. Costs $300 maybe for a really, really nice one, but then you don't have to pay $300 to get all your data recovered if it ever breaks. That's pretty nice. Likewise, your other option is you could pay every month for a subscription service, or, you know, you could try to source, oh, maybe you don't have that much photos. You could do a free option. You could do Google Drive or Microsoft OneDrive. They give you like 10 to 20 gigabytes for free. You could stuff as many photos as you want, probably several hundred, and bam, you're done. If you have a couple hundred photos that are really important to you, I would definitely start looking at like go to Google Drive. If you have a Gmail account, literally go to Google Drive, just type in Google Drive in Google. It'll send you right to Google Drive. You could move, it'll just say, we can add photos right from your computer. And then you'll just move photos right to your computer and bam, that's it. It costs nothing. Unless you have, you know, thousands of photos, you're done. And that's saved forever. And then if you ever want to access those photos again, your computer dies. Let's say your computer dies, or you replace your computer and you forgot, oh, I didn't move over my photos. They are precious to me. You just go to Google. You go to Google Drive and they're right there. So I would always have, at the end of the day, both a physical option, whether you choose a mechanical drive, any sort of optical media. I wouldn't do a disc. I wouldn't do a CD or a DVD. unless that works for you. If you only have computers with disk drives and you happen to have a bunch of disks laying around, yeah, I suppose you could use a DVD or a CD, but I'd really stay away from that. An external hard drive, good option. SD card or micro SD card, you're really only going to see those if you're moving stuff between a phone and a computer. I would either put, if you have a little bit of stuff, you could put stuff on a flash drive for a physical, and you could put stuff on free Microsoft OneDrive, free Google Drive, free Amazon Photos. All right. So you would have two options. A flash drive probably costs $20 for a decently sized one. And then you're also putting them on the cloud. If you have a lot of photos, you're gonna have to dish out a little bit more money. You're either gonna have to get, on the cheap end, you can get a mechanical hard drive for $50-$60, or an external solid state drive for hundreds of dollars, potentially. And then you have a physical copy of thousands of gigabytes worth of storage, and then you'd probably need to pay a subscription service for Microsoft OneDrive or Amazon Photos. But again, I just want to point out again, if you're already paying for Amazon Prime or Office 365, you have a free service that you are not using. If you're paying for Microsoft Office and you're not using Microsoft OneDrive, you are wasting, I wouldn't say you're wasting money. Maybe you just don't know that you have access to that. But if you're paying for Microsoft, you have Office 365, that's a service that they're giving to you for free. I would definitely look that up. That's something that's pretty awesome. They give you 1,000 gigabytes for free. So it's not like you have to go out and spend money. You might not have to spend money. You might already be spending money for a service that you don't know you have. So that's something that I would definitely look at. I went a little over. I started a little late, and I know it was sort of all over the place. I went over. I think I went over everything pretty well. Again, there's only really like two methods to store stuff. There's the physical and there's the cloud. A lot of methods are more primitive of putting stuff on a disk. And the only reason I'd say that is I think putting stuff on a disk is totally reasonable. The only problem is it's becoming a lot less and less common. And again, there's computers that just straight up don't have, they just don't offer, they don't have disk drives. So it's not something that I would, do. I'll take a look here at the Zoom meeting really quick. We don't have anything in the chat. I don't know if there's any questions that anybody has. Anyone has any questions for me, I'd be more than happy to answer them. But thank you. This was digital photo storage. This is from the Orland Park Public Library. Again, I'm Matthew Montalvo. I'm an IT assistant at the Orland Park Public Library. We have a couple other classes that are also going to be shown digitally here too. We have Intro to Excel, Beyond Bitcoin, which I will be doing, and then Intro to Selling on eBay. I don't know if you guys are familiar with any of those. I would definitely recommend the Intro to Excel if anyone wants to learn about Excel. I know Excel is pretty scary on the surface. There's a lot of boxes everywhere. They look very enticing. It's like, oh man, I don't know what this is. Intro to Excel will make you totally understand what that is. So I definitely recommend looking at that. Beyond Bitcoin, another thing that looks very scary at first. People don't know, like, what's a cryptocurrency? I don't know what a cryptocurrency is. Whoa, They look at Bitcoin, they don't understand what Bitcoin is. Maybe you see a lot of people are making money off Bitcoin and you want to know what Bitcoin is. I definitely recommend Beyond Bitcoin. We'll be going over all that. Intro to Selling on eBay. I think if you don't know what eBay is fully, you should definitely see Intro to Selling. And if you're interested on selling stuff on eBay, definitely you want to check out the Intro to Selling on eBay. eBay is pretty nice. People think eBay is it's just selling like random stuff on the internet by unreputable people, and you might try to buy like a $200 pair of sneakers, and you might accidentally you open the box and there's a candy cane and it's full of scams and it's high risk. It's not that at all. eBay is extremely reputable. It's very nice, and it's very, 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 very nice. It's almost all the money goes to you. eBay takes a cut, obviously. It's a business at the end of the day, but they have a very efficient system. If you ever get scammed, they give you your money back. eBay's team will come in and they'll fix any sort of problems that you're having. They'll do their best to help you. They'll cover shipping in some cases. If not, shipping is typically very cheap. If you're buying off eBay, it's typically very fast. eBay is pretty nice. And if you have a bunch of stuff laying around that you don't know what it is, or you're not using it anymore, you're like, oh, I should probably like sell this stuff. Or, if you're not the kind of person that just, some people just can't be bothered. They're like, oh, I'd sell all this, but that's just too hard. I don't want to have to go out of my way to sell everything. I'll just donate it all to Goodwill, or I'll just throw it all out. If there's valuable stuff that you're thinking about selling, but you're, scared of going on eBay and selling it, check out this class. It'll make selling it quite easy. So I would definitely take a look at all 3 of those classes. They're all very interesting. But if anyone has any more questions on digital photo storage, I'd be more than happy to help them with it. If you're ever looking at potentially moving photos from your computer or a flash drive or a hard drive yourself, and you want to move them to or from a, like a computer or a phone or a camera, and you want to move them into cloud storage, you can, maybe you don't have internet, you can come to the library and do that. As of right now, in the middle of June, we're actually only opened Orland Park residents by appointment only, but when we're back eventually, don't know when, but when we are open to the public and back to business as usual, you could come in. We do have the removable disk drives. So if you have CDs and you want to burn photos to a CD or a DVD, we could do that here. You'll need to provide your own DVD or CD. We don't have them here, but that's a service that we offer. We'll help you. If you have photos on a flash drive or a computer and you have disks and you want to move them onto the disk, we can help you with that. Similarly, if you have, I have pictures on a camera and I want to put them on my computer, we can help you with that too. So it's quite an easy process, but for now, this class was just trying to go over all the different ways that they could be stored in all the different devices that, different digital photo storage options. So hope this was informative for people that wanted to learn about digital photo storage. This is Matthew Montala from the Orland Park Public Library, and hopefully this was helpful for you guys. So until then, see ya, and hopefully you guys will come for another informative class from the Orland Park Public Library.